2, page 21 of A Wizard of Earthsea. Jed had thought long, as the apprentice of a great mage, he would enter at once into the mystery and mastery of power. He would understand the language of the beasts and the speech of the leaves of the forest, he thought, and sway the winds with his sword, and learn to change himself into any shape he wished. Maybe he and his master would run together as stags, or fly to Ray Albi over the mountain on the wings of eagles. But it was not so at all. They wandered, first down into the vale, and then gradually south and westward around the mountain, given lodging in little villages or spending the night out in the wilderness, like poor journeymen sorcerers, or tinkers, or beggars. They entered no mysterious domain. Nothing happened. The mage's oaken staff that Jed had watched at first with eager dread was nothing but a stout staff to walk with. 3 days went by, and 4 days went by, and still O'Gaian had not spoken a single charm in Jed's hearing, and had not taught him a single name, or rune, or spell. Though a very silent man, he was so mild and calm that Jed soon lost his awe of him, and in a day or two he was bold enough to ask his master, "When will my apprenticeship begin, sir?" "It has begun," said O'Gaian. There was a silence, as if Jed was keeping back something he had to say. Then he said it. "But I haven't learned anything yet." "Because you haven't found out what I am teaching," replied the mage, going on at his steady, long-legged pace along their road, which was the high pass between Ovark and Wyss. He was a dark man, like most Contishmen, dark copper-brown, gray-haired, lean and tough as a hound, tireless. He spoke seldom, ate little, slept less. His eyes and ears were very keen, and often there was a listening look on his face. Jed did not answer him. It is not always easy to answer a mage. "You want to work with spells," O'Gaian said presently, striding along. "You've drawn too much water from that well. Wait. Manhood is patience. Mastery is 9 times patience. What is that herb by the path?" "Strayflower." "And that?" "I don't know." "Forefoil, they call it." O'Gaian had halted, and the copper-shod foot of his staff near the little weed, so Jed looked closely at the plant, and plucked a dry seed pod from it, and finally asked, since O'Gaian had said nothing more, What is it? What is its use, master?" "None I know of." Jed kept the seed pod a while as they went on, then tossed it away. "When you know the forefoil in all its seasons, root and leaf and flower, by sight and scent and seed, then you may learn its true name, knowing its being. Which is more than its use. What, after all, is the use of you, or of myself? Is Gaunt Mountain useful, or the open sea?" O'Gaian went on a half-mile or so, and said at last, "To hear, one must be silent." The boy frowned. He did not like to be made to feel a fool. He kept back his resentment and impatience and tried to be obedient, so that Again would consent at last to teach him something, for he hungered to learn, to gain power. It began to seem to him, though, that he could have learned more walking with an herb gatherer or a village sorcerer as they had went round the mountain westward into lonely forests past Wiss. He wondered more and more what was the greatness and the magic of this great mage Ogion. For when it rained, Ogion would not even say the spell that every weather worker knows to send the storm aside. In a land where sorcerers come thick, like Gaunt or the Enlades, you may see a rain cloud plundering slowly from side to side and place to place as one spell shunts it on to the next, till at last it is buffeted out over the sea where it can rain in peace. But Ogion let the rain fall where it would. He found a thick fir tree and lay down beneath it. Jed crouched among the dripping bushes, wet and sullen, and wondered what was the good of having power if you were too wise to use it, and wished he could have gone as apprentice to that old weather worker of the Vale, where at least he could have slept dry. He did not speak any of his thoughts aloud. He said not a word. His master smiled and fell asleep in the rain. Along towards sun return, when the first heavy snows began to fall on the heights of Gaunt, they came to Ray Alby, Ogion's home. It is a town on the edge of the high rocks of Overfell, and its name means Falcon's Nest. For from it one can see far below the deep harbor and the towers of the port of Gaunt, and the ships that go in and out the gate of the West Bay between the armored cliffs, and far to the west across the sea one may make out the blue hills of Orinea, easternmost of the Inward Isles. The mage's house, though large, and soundly built of timber, with hearth and chimney rather than a fire pit, was like the huts of Ten Alders village, all one room, with a goat shed built onto the side. There was a kind of alcove in the west wall of the room, where Jed slept. Over his pallet was a window that looked out onto the sea, but most often the shutters must be closed against the great winds that blew all winter from the west and north. In the dark warmth of that house, Jed spent the winter, hearing the rush of rain and wind outside, or the silence of snowfall, learning to write and read the 600 runes of Hardic. Very glad he was to learn his lore, for without it, no mere rote learning of charms and spells will give a man true mastery. The Hardic tongue of the archipelago, though it had no more magic power in it than any other tongue of man, has its roots in the old speech, that language in which things are named with their true names. And the way to understanding of this speech starts with the runes that were written when the islands of the world first were raised up from the sea. Still, no marvels and enchantments occurred. All winter there was nothing but the heavy pages of the rune book turning, and the rain and the snow falling, and Ogion would come in from roaming the icy forests, or from looking after his goats, and stamp the snow off his boots, and sit down in silence by the fire. And the mage's long, listening silence would fill the room, and fill Jed's mind, until sometimes it seemed It seemed he had forgotten what words sounded like, and when Orion spoke at last, it was as if he had, just then and for the first time, invented speech. Yet the words he spoke were no more. Yet the words he spoke were no great matters, but had to do only with simple things: bread and water, and weather and sleep.